Listen to me. If there was a wise man who would ever think of this, they would say in order to be superior to the man, you've got to be the man. For I am the man himself.
What is going on, guys? This is the Club of the Man 1993, and this is episode number 24 of this WWE 24 review series as we go behind the scenes of WrestleMania 35, WrestleMania New York. Of course, this is kind of a culmination because a lot of the past few videos for this series was revolving around topics going into WrestleMania 35. So this is the culmination of that, and I believe this is probably the last of like a lot of other 24s that have like this many topic videos that kind of like tie into to it before we get to the WrestleMania recap. The next couple WrestleManias, like WrestleMania 36, there was a couple, not really for the other ones after that. So I guess that's my only complaint about this documentary, was that a lot of it was stuff that we've already talked about in recent documentaries as well about some of these people, like Becky Lynch, Ronda Rousey, Kofi Kingston, Batista. So a lot of that kind of like tied in with this documentary. But some new things, of course, we learned as well. And some things are recapped. Some things that they didn't touch on that I was surprised they didn't. But, you know, it is what it is. As I always say, what was special about this WrestleMania for me, though, again, was this is so far the only WrestleMania I have attended in person. And I thought it was definitely an amazing WrestleMania to attend. But it was long, and it was also the last WrestleMania that was only one night. Ever since WrestleMania 36, it's been a 2-night show. But we're going to get in and talk about it, the behind-the-scenes stuff, and this, and that. Stories that it kind of like, you know, like reflected on, like the matches that they reflected on the most. There was, of course, Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins. Kind of like tying in that this was around a time where they both, like, you know, started, you know, they first became a couple in real life. It was like around the beginning in January of that year is when they kind of like started, like, basically said, you know, we can't hide this anymore, you know, we're a thing pretty much. And they're both kind of going through the same things at the same time, leading up being like the big headliners for this WrestleMania. Was also kind of like something that really helped them grow together, was the fact that they were going through like similar things at the same time. They actually apparently shared their first kiss at the Royal Rumble. And also the fact that Becky got to be in Gorilla, to be one of the first people to congratulate Seth when he dethroned Brock Lesnar, which that match, the match with Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar, that was supposed to happen second to last. But instead, they changed it last minute and opened it with the main show. Because I remember that. They opened it with the main show, which, of course, you know, Seth Rollins, it was where Brock kind of like ragdolled Seth Rollins before the bell rang. And then when the referee got bumped down, Seth loboed Brock, say, okay, you want to play dirty? I'm going to play dirty too. And then he stomped him out 3 times and got the title. Of course, they would have an actual rematch at SummerSlam where Seth did beat Brock clean, which was a pretty good match, of course, too, later on in the year. And we already know about Becky Lynch's story, you know, with her main event WrestleMania, how no one believed her when she said that she would main event WrestleMania, and she did, and whatnot. We all know that storyline, so we're not going to really go too deep into that one, because it was basically most of the same stuff we got from her 24 special of Becoming the Man. They also actually touched on the IIconics, Billie Kay, Peyton Royce, because I was still I'm still surprised to this day. Of course, if you've seen my WrestleMania 35 documentary I made of my experience there, you would see I showed the picture I took of my exact reaction when the IIconics won, because they had just brought in those women's tag titles, and to kind of have Sasha and Bayley drop them like that, I was kind of surprised. And I wasn't upset the IIconics won. It just didn't feel like it was time to take the belts off of Sasha and Bayley yet. That tag team division was still being developed, and it never technically has been developed. And even after they won the tag titles of that WrestleMania, they didn't have them on TV for months. So I'm happy for them, especially when they told their story of coming in from Australia and just being these tight friends in real life and whatnot, this and that, and how their personalities on TV are basically their personalities as well in real life. That was cool, but like I said, it's the moment was great for them, but was it really the best move? Just saying. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention also, they were showing people practicing entrances before the show, and this was during a time when they had that stinking group of 6 NXT call-ups that were floating. Well, there ended up being more, because remember they brought up, who was that they all brought up at the time? It was Nikki Cross, Lacey Evans, Lars Sullivan, Heavy Machinery, I guess that's both of them. EC3, I can't remember if I said them already. And I think that's all that I can't remember off the top of my head. Lacey Evans, of course, as well. And then also, of course, they had brought up, because remember, they in one night, they brought up Ricochet, Aleister Black, Johnny Gargano, and Tommaso Ciampa. Johnny and Tommaso, though, after Tommaso's injury, went back to NXT. And also, they kept him down there because of the new TV deal for NXT as well, whenever they got a live TV deal. Because they were actually on the show, Ricochet and Aleister Black, and they were kind of like a topic to talk about as well. But I love the clip they showed from, this is also when Lacey Evans didn't really do anything until she feuded with Becky Lynch following WrestleMania 35, and she was doing this dumb thing where she just came out walking, just turned around, walked away. It was so freaking stupid for a woman that had absolutely no passion for this. Sorry, that makes me so bitter that they invested so much time in Lacey Evans just for her to leave and say, I really never had any passion for her in the meantime. Really. But anyways, when they played her music, Seth Rollins mocked her entrance. And I thought that was hilarious when they did that. Oh yeah, they also had kind of showed some stuff behind the scenes for Zack, Ryder, and Curt Hawkins, and they dethroned the Revival for the Raw tag titles on the pre-show. I wish they would have done so much more with that storyline, because they teased it at the beginning of WrestleMania season. They did nothing after that, and then they just had the match at WrestleMania. Given that more time, that could have been a really good story. I mean, it was a nice moment for them, but when it happened, it's okay, cool, but it's you could have had a better build for it. And I also remember, oh gosh, they had the freaking Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royale. The only thing there was 2 matches on the show I didn't like. One was the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royale, because the main storyline for that Battle Royale, and the only people who were advertised for that Battle Royale, was Braun Strowman and Michael Chi and Colin Jost from Saturday Night Live. That storyline sucked. It was awful. It was so stupid as well. So stupid. I still remember when I was there, as soon as it came down to just the 3 of them, I literally just got up and walked up to go get food. Because I'm yep, I see where this is going. I don't give a crap. I absolutely hated that as well. On the main show, like I said, also Alexa Bliss was the host for WrestleMania that year. This was during a time where she was kind of she had some concussion issues, so they were being very cautious with her. And of course, they also had the whole thing. I created a WrestleMania moment, the palm of my hand with the snap of the fingers. That's when Hulk Hogan came out at the beginning of the show and whatnot. And I already talked about Seth. I know the second match was, they didn't talk about AJ and Randy at all. trying to think too. The IIconics were talked about. They did, like I said, they did also kind of give Ricochet a spotlight in this, like him and a little bit of Aleister Black, just of Ricochet's journey. I think the problem, though, I had with this was because Ricochet, well, in recent interviews when Ricochet left WWE, he did mention how he claims that he never entered the wrestling business with an end goal of going to WWE. And 2019, this was in 2019, of course, WrestleMania 35, this was when AEW was just about to debut. And he claims if AEW would have existed before he went to WWE in 2018, he probably would have went to AEW instead. Because he felt like that's where more he belonged. In this documentary, he made it seem like being in WrestleMania was the dream. So either it's like, okay, you're coming across as a little phony at times, no offense. Or, at the time, that was the only game in town. Basically, that was like the big end goal. So I'm not sure how I felt about that. But, you know, he was, you know, happy to be at WrestleMania. And I'm not trashing on Ricochet. Because, you know, he did say he was grateful for his run in WWE. It's just that this whole idea that, you know, this denial that he claims he never entered the wrestling business to get to WWE. Kind of just like, well, that's not what he said here. So it was just kind of a little strange. And he had the moment backstage with Shawn Michaels and whatnot, because Shawn Michaels was a big mentor to him for his year in NXT and whatnot. So there was that match. And that Fatal 4-Way match, I think it was the Usos, Ricochet and Aleister Black, The Bar, and the random thrown together team of Rusev and Shinsuke Nakamura. God, that was a terrible thrown together team. But that Fatal 4-Way was a very underrated match, that WrestleMania. Very good indeed. I'm trying to remember what else was there. Well, obviously there was Kofi Kingston as well. But we already talked about that in the Kofi Kingston documentary as well. The whole Kofi Mania thing, which was, of course, still awesome to see. Had it not been, of course, for the women's first main event, that match should have main evented the show. That, by far, was the best match of the night. And then a lot of stuff after that, they kind of like didn't really go over much. Like I'm surprised they didn't do anything for John Cena showing up as a Doctor of Thugonomics. They just showed that it happened. Same with like Samoa Joe and Rey Mysterio. That was a 1-minute squash match. Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre, which of course at the time was just a meh cooldown match compared to the matches they eventually would have when Roman was the tribal chief. But basically it was just Roman getting back on track as returning from his leukemia. Which apparently the original plan for Roman at WrestleMania was for him to defend the Universal title against Dean Ambrose. Of course, that didn't happen, and this is right when Ambrose left WWE as well. All that happened. They did briefly highlight Batista and Triple H, because that's another person that got a special recently, was Batista's Dream Chaser 24 documentary as well, but that was his final match. They did show Xavier Woods backstage singing his song, which was kind of priceless too. The other one I'm very surprised they didn't go more in depth on is Kurt Angle. Because this was Kurt Angle's retirement match, and this was the second match I absolutely hated on this show. I hated the fact they wasted Kurt Angle's retirement on Baron Corbin. And yes, I'm not going to lie, Kurt was not in good shape at all whatsoever. I still watched that slow-mo of that moonsault he did in the match. He almost landed on his head. That was a scary spot. Like, why couldn't they let him do, like, him and John Cena, or, like, him and someone else? Like, John Cena was there that night. They could have done the match. But, of course, nope. Couldn't happen. He was involved in the storyline line with Corbin. And putting over Corbin did absolutely nothing. Corbin feuded with Seth Rollins that summer for the Universal title, and the feud sucked. Remember how bad that was? Yeah, that match pissed me off to no end. That was a horrible, horrible way to send off Kurt Angle. Absolute disrespect for sure for that. I'm trying to remember if I missed any other matches. I know there was also on the show Finn Balor and Bobby Lashley for the IC title, and I know Finn Balor won. It was an excuse for the Demon to appear at WrestleMania. And then, of course, you know, there was the main event there as well. I think, we already talked about it already. I think I got everything out of the way that I needed to talk about. I think so, yes. Like I said, this is a little bit of like a different review because, like I said, the like I said, this WrestleMania I feel like had a lot of other like separate 24 specials that kind of like tied into leading up to it. So most of this we already talked about. Like the new stuff again was like the stuff with Ricochet, a little bit of Zack, Ryder, and Curt Hawkins. Again, a little bit behind the scenes from that stupid unrated Giant Memorial Battle Royale. The relationship with Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. How both, whenever Seth won, Becky was allowed to be in Gorilla. I liked how they did show like that backstage they had like after Seth's match. It was kind of like a moment. It felt like a personal moment between them and their relationship. And it was just kind of like nice to see. And what, of course, they're talking about how they asked if it was okay, this is and that. Obviously, at the time where they were just like coming out public. Oh, I forgot another match they didn't really go into depth with. Shane McMahon and The Miz. They showed a couple highlights, but that was an awesome match. I know the feud didn't accomplish what I was hoping for, which was to put over The Miz as a babyface, and more so just put over Shane McMahon as a new corporate heel. But that WrestleMania 35 match, that Falls Count Anywhere match, was awesome. And I mean, it was very, very awesome. That's a very underrated match. But still, Daniel Bryan and Kofi Kingston was definitely the best match of that show, for sure. But overall, again, it was still a very fun night. Very fun WrestleMania. Again, I just wish they would have saved... They wouldn't have done so many other 24s leading up to this documentary. Because this one was kind of like, okay, we've heard these stories so far. Give us something new. We got some new, but it was kind of hard to give us some new stuff. But still a good one. And that's episode number 24 of the 24 review series. We're going to move on, of course, to the next episode. Episode 25 is on R-Truth. I've seen this one time. I don't remember it, but I do remember the ending. The ending is one of my favorite endings to a documentary. And I'll explain why when we get to it next time. But guys, what are your thoughts on this WrestleMania New York 24 special? Leave your guys' thoughts down in the comment section below. Again, like I said, do you think there was too many other ones before this that had like stuff broken down? And yeah, actually, of course, they didn't even talk about Ronda Rousey in this documentary. They just showed, a couple highlights, but she wasn't even interviewed for this documentary. But what are your guys' thoughts on this documentary in general? Like I said, was it affected by the fact that there were too many topics that were like tied in from previous ones? Again, slap a like on the video, subscribe for more content on my channel. Follow me on Twitter as well at the Club of the Man 93, and also follow me on Instagram at the Club of the Man 1993. And until then, guys, I'm checking out. I'll catch you all later. Have a great rest of your night, and do not forget, in order to be superior to the man, you've got to be the man. And for I am the man himself. And that is not just an opinion, my friends. That is a fact of life. Yeah!